The beginning was effortless, like a melody I didn't want to end. We traveled together, discovering cities, beaches, and mountains as if the world had been made for us alone. Her laugh was contagious, brightening even the dullest days. I remember mornings when the sunlight would spill into our hotel room, illuminating her face, and I would watch her with a feeling I could barely name: pure joy, pure admiration. We explored hidden cafes in Rome, walked the streets of Paris at night, and spent long hours on the beaches of Greece, talking about everything and nothing. She was kind, attentive, and astonishingly present. Every small gesture, pouring coffee for me, noticing when I was tired, sharing a book she loved, felt like a love letter written without words. Life outside of travel was equally enchanting. Even mundane days felt brighter with her by my side. Grocery shopping became an adventure. Long walks through the city turned into conversations about dreams, and every evening ended with a shared glass of wine and soft music. Our hands entwined. The world seemed right, balanced, and profoundly simple when she was near. Then, one evening, the first hint of disruption appeared. A mutual friend, casual and unaware of its significance, mentioned a party where she had been seen using cocaine. At first, I brushed it off. Surely it was a misunderstanding, a rumor, a joke, a misinterpretation. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and once it took root, it would not let go. I tried to ignore it for weeks, focusing on the laughter, the warmth, and the intimacy we shared. But small inconsistencies began to appear. She sometimes seemed jittery, restless in ways that didn't match her usual calm. Certain nights, she would vanish without explanation, returning with excuses that felt fragile and rehearsed. Text messages slipped from her phone, deleted before I could see them, conversations held at odd hours, shadows over the bright image I had cherished. One night, after returning from a long day exploring Lisbon, I confronted her gently, trying to trust both her and my intuition. "I heard something today," I began cautiously. "Something about a party, about cocaine. Is there anything I need to know?" Her face went pale, a subtle tremor in her hands. She avoided my gaze, fiddling with the edge of her sleeve. I didn't want you to find out like this," she whispered. "Yes, I've tried it. A few times. I didn't think it mattered. I wasn't going to let it control me." Control. The word lingered in the air, heavier than either of us had expected. I wanted to believe her, to trust that this small, reckless choice did not redefine everything we had shared. Yet a cold fear wrapped around my chest, a warning that the intimacy, the trust, the bond we had built might not survive this revelation. The weeks that followed were difficult. I tried to maintain the joy of our relationship, to cling to the memories of laughter and travel, to believe in the woman I knew. But tension seeped into our moments, subtle and persistent. I watched her closely, noting every lapse in honesty, every unexplained absence, every small sign of the habit she had denied. Our once effortless connection became strained, conversations weighed down with unspoken doubt. We traveled again, hoping that the beauty of the world could overshadow the growing chasm between us. In Barcelona, we strolled along the beach at dusk, her hand in mine, waves washing over our feet. I wanted to lose myself in that moment, to pretend everything was as it had always been. But my mind was filled with questions I could not ignore. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked quietly, as the horizon glowed in shades of orange and pink. "I was scared," she admitted, tears glistening in her eyes. "I didn't want to lose you. I didn't think it mattered. I thought I could control it." Control. Again, the word echoed, but this time with a deeper meaning. Love, trust, and care could not coexist with secrets that carried the power to destroy. I wanted to help her, to support her, but I also had to acknowledge the reality: the person I loved might not be entirely hers to give while hiding something so dangerous. Our days together became a delicate balance of joy and caution. I held her hand in crowded markets, laughed with her in museums, whispered compliments as the sun set over foreign rooftops. Yet every gesture carried a hidden weight, a subtle fear that the next revelation could unravel everything. The woman who had been my world seemed fragile, her brilliance tinged with shadows I could not fully chase away. One night, in a quiet hotel room in Vienna, the confrontation I had long avoided came to pass. I could no longer mask my fear, my hurt, my desperation for honesty. "You have to tell me everything," I said firmly. "No more half-truths, no more secrets. If we are going to be together, I need the whole person. Not just the parts that are easy to love." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know," she whispered. I don't want to lose you. But I've made mistakes. I've let myself get carried away. I can't undo what I've done, but I can try to stop, to be better." Her words were sincere. Yet the damage was subtle and profound. Love, even when sincere, cannot flourish under the weight of hidden dangers. I wanted to support her, to help her through the struggle, but I also realized that survival, my own emotional and mental survival, demanded boundaries, clarity, and honesty. The days that followed were filled with intense conversations, confessions, and plans. Therapy, support networks, and accountability became part of our routine. I learned the delicate balance between love and self-preservation, between hope and reality. And slowly, we began to rebuild, not just the relationship, but the foundation of trust that had been shaken. Yet even amid recovery, I carried the quiet sorrow of lost innocence. The woman I had known, the effortless joy we had shared, had been altered irrevocably by secrets and choices. Our travels, laughter, and tenderness remained, but now shadowed by awareness, vigilance, and the acknowledgement of human fragility. Through it all, I understood something vital. Love is not only about shared joy, but about facing hidden truths, enduring challenges, and choosing empathy over judgment. It is about recognizing imperfection, embracing honesty, and navigating the delicate terrain of human vulnerability with courage and care. And so, our journey continued, together, yet changed, enriched by the trials we had faced, tempered by the honesty we now demanded, and strengthened by the resilience that had emerged from confronting the shadows we could no longer ignore. The weeks after the Vienna confrontation were turbulent, though no one outside would have noticed. To the casual observer, we were still the happy couple traveling through Europe, holding hands, taking photos with carefree smiles. But beneath the surface, a slow erosion was happening, subtle yet insistent. I noticed patterns I hadn't before. Small absences during evenings we were supposed to share, unexplained fatigue despite what should have been restful sleep, and the occasional jitter in her eyes. A quick flinch when certain topics arose. My mind, once content with love and trust, became a constant processor of these signals, weighing them, questioning them, trying to reconcile them with the woman I adored. One afternoon in Prague, we sat in a small cafe overlooking the Vltava River. She laughed at something I said, but the sound carried an undercurrent of distraction. I watched her sip her coffee, noticing the slight tremor in her hands, the tension in her shoulders, and my chest tightened. "Are you okay?" I asked gently. She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the table. "I'm trying," she said quietly. "I don't want this to ruin us." And yet, despite her words, I sensed a barrier between us, invisible but impenetrable. My heart ached not for the cocaine itself, but for the secret, for the trust fractured by omission, for the vulnerability I had never anticipated. We continued our travels, a mixture of joy and subtle tension. Venice brought gondola rides at dusk, streets filled with music, and the aroma of fresh pastries drifting from small bakeries. I tried to anchor myself in these moments, to focus on the wonder around us, but my mind always returned to questions, to doubts, to the knowledge that the person I loved was hiding a part of herself I could not ignore. Conversations became delicate dances. I asked questions, careful not to sound accusatory. She answered, carefully crafting her words to balance honesty with self-preservation. But each answer carried the weight of potential deceit. Each confession a reminder of prior omission. Love, once effortless, became a careful negotiation of trust and boundaries. One night, in a small hotel in Florence, I awoke to the sound of her moving quietly in the room. She returned to bed moments later, but something in her eyes, the faint sheen of fear, the subtle avoidance of my gaze, spoke volumes. I realized then that the secret had not been fully confronted, that honesty was a continuous process, not a single moment. I tried to remind myself of the joy, the laughter, the warmth that had brought us together. I thought of our hikes in the Swiss Alps, the late-night conversations in Berlin, the quiet mornings with coffee in hand overlooking the Seine. But these memories were now interwoven with caution, with vigilance, with a constant awareness that the foundation of our love was fragile. Despite the strain, I could not deny her kindness, her brilliance, and the moments of pure connection we still shared. Yet the knowledge of her cocaine use cast a shadow over even the brightest memories. A shadow that no laughter or shared experience could entirely dispel. In those days, I found myself oscillating between hope and fear. I wanted to believe in her capacity to change, to trust her entirely, but the reality of hidden choices lingered persistently. Every late night, every unspoken hesitation, every sudden defensiveness became a test of our relationship, a measure of resilience and honesty. The turning point came quietly, almost imperceptibly, during a train ride from Florence to Milan. She reached for my hand, her fingers trembling slightly. "I want to be better," she said softly. "Not just for us, but for me. I want to stop hiding. I want to be fully present, fully honest, fully me." Her words, simple yet profound, offered a glimmer of hope. I realized that the journey was not over, that trust could be rebuilt, but only with patience, understanding, and the courage to face each hidden truth as it arose. It would not be easy, and the shadow of past secrets would linger. But the possibility of love and connection remained. In the weeks that followed, we sought help, both individually and together. Therapy sessions, open discussions, and small, deliberate acts of honesty became our new routine. The travel continued, but with a new awareness. Joy no longer existed in ignorance, but in a careful, deliberate acknowledgement of both beauty and imperfection. Through it all, I learned the delicate balance of loving someone deeply while safeguarding my own emotional integrity. I understood that love is not blind, nor is it unconditional in the absence of honesty. True connection requires transparency, courage, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, even when they threaten the delicate fabric of intimacy. And so, the months passed, filled with both joy and caution, with laughter and vigilance, with love tested and stretched, but never entirely broken. The woman I loved remained the same in essence, yet the revelation of her choices altered the dynamics irrevocably, teaching me the profound lessons of trust, resilience, and the complexities of human imperfection. Spring had fully arrived, and with it came long, sunlit days and warmer nights. Yet, despite the beauty around us, the tension between us had become impossible to ignore. I had tried to anchor myself in our shared memories, our laughter, our travel adventures, but each hidden truth, each omitted detail, gnawed at the foundation of our relationship. It was during a quiet evening in Barcelona, sitting on the terrace of a small hotel overlooking the city lights, that I finally confronted the situation fully. The air was thick with expectation, the scent of jasmine from nearby planters filled the balcony. I could feel her hand tremble slightly in mine. "I can't pretend anymore," I said quietly. "I love you. I've loved you through every city, every laugh, every sunrise. But I can't love a version of you that hides dangerous secrets from me. I need honesty. I need transparency. I need to know that the woman I trust is truly with me, not just physically, but completely, in every way." She stared at me, eyes wide, tears welling. "I've tried, I swear. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to lose us. But yes, I've used cocaine. I wanted to control it, to keep it separate from what we share, but I failed. I'm sorry. I never meant for this to come between us." The confession, though expected, landed with the weight of inevitability. I could feel my heart tighten. The years of joy, the laughter, the intimacy, now entangled with fear, hurt, and betrayal. But in that moment, clarity began to emerge. Love and trust are not synonymous. They intersect, yes, but they demand courage, honesty, and accountability. "I want to help you," I said, my voice calm but resolute. "But I cannot do it blindly. If we are to continue, there must be boundaries, accountability, and a plan. Otherwise, us cannot survive. I will not watch someone I love destroy themselves in secrecy." She nodded, shaking, her lips trembling. "I understand. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy, support groups. Whatever you need to trust me again. I love you too much to let this define us." The days that followed were both difficult and transformative. Together, we sought professional help. She confronted her habits, slowly, with determination and honesty. We established routines that prioritized transparency, communication, and accountability. Every evening, we spoke openly about temptations, challenges, and fears. Every morning began with reaffirmation of commitment, not just to each other, but to the values we had agreed upon. Travel continued, but it was no longer a carefree escape. Each city, each street, each sunset was viewed through a lens of conscious presence, a careful awareness of the fragility of trust and the effort required to maintain it. The laughter returned, genuine and heartfelt, but it was now accompanied by vigilance and understanding. I observed the subtle changes in her, moments of hesitation giving way to honesty. Nervous glances replaced by openness, secrecy replaced by dialogue. And in turn, I discovered patience I hadn't known I possessed, resilience born of love tempered by reality. One evening, walking along the Barcelona waterfront, she turned to me, eyes clear and steady. "I feel free," she said softly. "Not because I've stopped using, but because I no longer hide. Because I no longer need to pretend. Because I can be fully myself with you." Her words were a revelation. The weight of secrecy, the fear, the tension, all began to dissolve. Love, I realized, is not just about joy, but about confrontation, honesty, and the courage to endure human imperfection. Months passed. The cocaine, though still a temptation in the world outside our relationship, became a shadow that no longer controlled her, no longer invaded our connection. Trust, once fractured, was rebuilt, brick by brick, through patience, accountability, and unyielding honesty. And in that reconstruction, I discovered a profound truth. Love is not defined by the absence of mistakes, nor by flawless behavior. It is defined by the willingness to confront those mistakes together, to endure discomfort, to navigate shadows, and to emerge with understanding and empathy intact. We traveled again, this time with an awareness that enhanced rather than diminished our experiences. Paris, Rome, Vienna, Lisbon. Each city a testament to resilience, each sunrise a reminder of the fragile, beautiful nature of human connection. Our hands intertwined. Our laughter genuine, our conversations rich with honesty and presence. I realized, finally, that the woman I loved had always been worthy of that love, not because she was perfect, but because she had the courage to face her flaws and the willingness to share them openly. And I, in turn, had learned the true depth of love, that it is patient, discerning, courageous, and profoundly human. By the time we returned home, the tension had been replaced by a quiet, steady intimacy. We had survived the revelation, endured the strain, and rebuilt our connection stronger, tempered by the fires of honesty, trust, and shared responsibility. It was not a story of naive bliss, but of courage, transformation, and enduring commitment. Love, in its truest form, is not blind. It sees, it confronts, it survives, and it grows. And as we sat together, hands entwined, watching the sunset over the familiar skyline, I knew that we had emerged not only intact, but profoundly changed, wiser, and deeply connected. Summer had arrived, and with it came a sense of renewal. The air was warmer, the days longer, and the world seemed to breathe with a gentle rhythm that mirrored the gradual calm that had settled between us. What had once been a delicate, strained connection had transformed into something steady, grounded, and aware. Our travels continued, but with a new consciousness. Venice, with its winding canals and quiet corners, became a space of mindful presence. We explored not just for pleasure. but with intention, cherishing each conversation, each shared glance, each moment without distraction. I noticed her laughter now carried a depth that was absent before, a mixture of joy and relief, the freedom that comes from living openly. We returned to familiar routines at home, too. Evenings that had once been quiet exercises in patience and vigilance now felt comfortable and warm. We cooked together, shared stories, and navigated life's small challenges with a trust that had been tested and solidified. The small acts of honesty, once difficult, were now habitual, effortless even, and they strengthened the foundation upon which our relationship rested. One evening, sitting on the balcony of our apartment, the city lights twinkling like distant stars, she turned to me. "Do you remember our first trip together?" she asked softly. I smiled, recalling the nervous excitement, the long walks, the endless conversations. "Of course. Paris. You were terrified of getting lost, but we ended up finding the best little cafe in Montmartre." She laughed, the sound clear and unburdened. "I feel like that girl doesn't exist anymore. I've changed. I've learned. I've faced my shadows. And I've learned too," I said. "I've learned about patience, about resilience, about what it truly means to love someone completely, flaws and all. And I've learned that love is strongest when it survives honesty, even when that honesty is hard to face." She reached for my hand, her grip firm yet gentle. "I never want to hide from you again. Not from love. Not from life, not from myself." That night, I realized the full depth of what we had achieved. The relationship that had once been threatened by secrets, fear, and poor choices had been rebuilt on a foundation stronger than before: honesty, mutual respect, and the courage to confront life's challenges together. The cocaine, once a shadow over our happiness, was no longer a source of fear. Its presence was acknowledged, understood, and managed, and the trust we had rebuilt allowed us to move forward without resentment or fear. In the weeks and months that followed, our bond deepened. Shared meals, quiet evenings, and travels continued, each moment richer because it was lived with awareness. We spoke openly about temptations, challenges, and feelings. We supported one another through difficulties, celebrated small victories, and held space for vulnerability without judgment. I came to understand something vital: love is not diminished by imperfection. Rather, it is defined by the willingness to endure challenges, confront truths, and grow together through both joy and adversity. We were no longer just lovers exploring the world. We were partners, co-authors of a story shaped by resilience, honesty, and enduring commitment. One quiet afternoon, we sat together by the river, watching sunlight ripple across the water. She rested her head on my shoulder, and I felt a profound sense of peace. The past months of uncertainty, fear, and tension had not been wasted. They had taught us lessons about trust, patience, and the complexity of human nature. We had survived not because the danger disappeared, but because we faced it together. And in that tranquility, I understood the truth that would guide us going forward. Love is not naive bliss, but conscious choice. It is not about ignoring flaws, but about embracing them with empathy and courage. The beauty of our relationship was not just in our laughter or adventures, but in the honesty, resilience, and dedication that had allowed us to emerge stronger after facing the shadows of human imperfection. As the sun set, casting golden light over the city, I held her hand and felt the quiet certainty of connection, trust, and enduring love. Life would bring challenges, of course, but the foundation we had built would support us, unwavering and steadfast. We had learned that secrets, once revealed, can either destroy or transform a relationship. Ours had transformed. And in that transformation, I found not only relief, but hope, wisdom, and the profound joy of shared authenticity. Our journey continued, brighter and more grounded than before. We traveled, laughed, and lived fully, knowing that love is strongest when nurtured with honesty, patience, and unwavering care. And in that knowledge, we discovered a kind of peace and fulfillment that no hidden truths could ever diminish.